Okay, great. Welcome. We are going to be having a conversation with two folks that are running for selectmen. Lucky for them and lucky for us, they are running unopposed. So this is your slate and these are your future selectmen. So
Select board.
Oh, sorry. You know what? It's thank you, because all the years that I was involved in it, it was,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah.
But there you have it.
You know, it's Fernando said PFAS, our water, and having safe water in town and the budget. I mean, there's so many things.
There's quite a bit on
Yeah,
that plate.
you won't be bored.
Well,
No,
no, and I do like what Fernando said also about looking, and we talked about this the other night.
Yeah.
About trying to get some sort of our goals for the year and our goals for make it like a 5-year
Yeah.
thing, because so much of the time what we're doing is just trying to put out fires,
right.
and it's hard to see sometimes the bigger picture.
Mhm.
It is difficult. And you mentioned the budget, so I'll follow up with you. An override, it's been a topic of conversation at Finance Committee. It's been a topic of conversation in the community. And I think that it's going to be a topic of conversation as we go through this year. As a select board member, how do you approach this in terms of scope, in terms of communicating with the community? If you believe we need an override and gaining their support, do you have feelings as to the best way to approach that, timing and information wise? What do you think is the best way?
I think probably the best way is to start talking about it as soon as this town meeting is over.
Can I have a week?
But you don't understand, yes, we can all have a month, a fair amount of time, but I don't think it's something that can wait until the end of the summer
Right.
or next fall. There are too many really important needs in the town for me to think that this override isn't going to be a serious concern. Whether we're gonna go for it or not, who knows? I mean, it's gonna take a lot more conversation than that, but we have some serious needs. And we have a, residential tax base. We don't have, businesses and whatnot, so our funds are in many ways more limited, I think, than some of other towns. So I think getting together all the financial and decision-making players, the finance committee, fiscal advisory, the select board, with Rainey and our finance director and whatever, and starting that conversation soon is the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, Fernando?
I couldn't agree more. We've actually, I think we've discussed with Rennie and so, yeah, we need to put a task force together with representation from the different committees that are involved in this. And really, we need to find a way of being able to describe, this is the service that you get and this is the cost. I think ultimately, for us to, as a town, to support an override, in essence, an increase in our property taxes, right? We need to be able to really articulate this is the service we're getting, and this is the cost, and so therefore we can make an informed decision. There's a lot of good things that the library, I mean, the Council on Aging, the beach. There's lots of great quality services that the residents demand, and so yeah, we need to be able to set up that task force. Has got to be able to figure out a way to have that conversation. This is the service. This is the cost. This is the choices we face, and at the end of the day, I'd like to be, as a member of the select board, standing in front at the town meeting, if we do decide an override, to be able to justify it, to feel that we've really looked at everything, that we have been fiscally responsible, that we've really tested everything, and this is the choices that we have as a community. And yeah, if we want this, then we support it. I think there's no way that we can go into it and just say, hey, accept it. No, we've got to really look at it and scrub it down and provide the residents with an informed choice when it comes to town meeting. It's going to be a difficult conversation.
Yes.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah.
And one of the issues that has been ongoing, that funding has not been available for coastal resiliency.
Right.
And I know that it's near and dear to both of your hearts. And I don't know if you've had conversations, I'm sure you've had personal thoughts about what is our role in that? We are one of 78 coastal communities. Do we keep our research and our support limited to Duxbury? Do we try to form a coalition with other coastal communities? And where will that funding come from?
Right.
So
Yeah.
you could start
Sure, I
on
can
that
start
one.
with that.
Yeah.
That's a nice one, actually. Yeah. So
Well, it's real.
it feels like it feels it kind of similar to the PFAS conversation. And for me, the PFAS conversation by similarity is that we knew we had a problem, but we hadn't figured out a way to get our arms around it to move it forward.
Mhm.
So we've put together an outstanding task force. There's some quality people in there. They've looked at all the data, and I think right now we're struggling how to move it forward. There's definitely a need of a resource. Again, that's what's wonderful about Duxbury. All these committees are all volunteers, and there's clearly we need a resource. We do have a planner. We have a vacancy. We do miss Chris. I mean, he was absolutely a fantastic planner. We miss him. We haven't been able to fill that role, but we need somebody just like a project manager, somebody to take this together and kind of help facilitate a strategy, an approach. I don't think we have an approach. We have an issue. We have lots of problems. We have lots of ideas, but we haven't put it together in terms of a strategy. How we're going to approach this. Again, to answer those questions, are we better on our own? Are we better as part of a larger South Shore community? How do we access both federal and state funding? How do we put it all together? How do we articulate what is the strategy for Duxbury to adapt to climate resiliency? How do we go about doing it? So articulating a strategy, I think that's what we need to do. And we're lacking a resource to help us do that actually right now. And that's one of the issues that we need to address quickly to be able to do that.
Cindy?
Yeah, so I've been part of the Coastal Resiliency Task Force as well, since its inception, and that's been really meeting just for about a year, a little over a year in January. And we have had in Duxbury multiple studies by different groups.
Mhm.
The most recent being a group that came out of Woods Hole, and it was done with Woods Hole, DBR, the Duxbury Beach Reservation, and partially by our then part-time planner, Valerie Massard. And they put together really a list of things that we need to attend to. And they even decide which ones are more important, which ones are more cost effective, which ones needed to be done now versus, can you wait? And so the task force looked at all of those studies, and there was a Snug Harbor study done as well, and there is work being done in Snug Harbor now, and there's planning being done in Snug Harbor, and so I mean, I think tasks and ideas have been identified, but just as they started to get going, Chris Ryan left.
Right.
And he is a really important component of that, Chris being our planner, and it's been hard to find somebody else. I know the task force and a number of us, including I think Fernando on the committee, think that having somebody with a lot of coastal experience, and maybe even a separate resiliency type planner. I mean, to at least have that as part of their job description, if not a full-time resiliency planner, would be really beneficial for the town of Duxbury. There's roads that need to be raised at Gurnet and the Powder Point area that floods all the time, Snug Harbor and culverts and Marshall Street Bridge. And I mean, there's, lots of important issues. And it comes down back to what we were just talking about, the budget and maybe an override, because there's not money for that.
Right.
And so how do you pay for it? And one of the things that we've talked about a lot is grant writing and getting somebody that can help us get grants to get some of these projects done. So that's one way to go about it, and that's something that we're looking at actually right now. And just starting to look at. And the other thing is what you had suggested, Betsy, is to join forces with another community or a number of other communities, because so many of our issues are the same. There is a state program going on now, they're just in its infancy, just getting information from all these 78 communities that are coastal, and what are the different communities' issues, what are their most important things. And maybe in a couple of years, they will have figured all that out, and there'll be money, the state will come back with money for some of these projects, but I don't know how many years we have to wait to
Right.
start all of those things, so.
Right, it's ongoing.
It
Yep.
is ongoing and I think crucial.
And you mentioned the reservation and the beach. I think that,
Gave you a little segue.
you did, thank you, that was nice, I caught it, you softball. Boom. The Duxbury Beach, I think that, Duxbury Beach, it's the identifier for this community, whether you use the beach, don't use the beach, it is the identifier, it is what, it is treasured. And, it is also challenging.
Right.
The income that the town had received from selling stickers and using the beach for the community has gone down every single year because of challenges with our working with the beach and working with the bird population out there and an assortment of other coastal resiliency issues. What is it that you feel you can do in this upcoming town meeting to calm the waters? When people say, we're paying $1 million for something that used to bring us revenue, is now costing us money, and oh, by the way, I can only use it for a month. Now, that's a very negative view of the world, and I do not subscribe, but that is going to be part of the argument at town meeting, and I believe people will be looking to you and the rest of the committee for some answers to that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, because no, it is, and we've talked about it, and it will be, I've heard that view, we've all heard that
Certainly,
view, so.
yes.
And I agree, Duxbury Beach is crucial to our town, and it has always been. I was, and I read something recently, sort of negative about what I'm about to say.
It's okay, it's okay.
Mr. Unopposed will not argue with you.
I was one of the fortunate ones. I grew up in this town.
Yep.
And Duxbury Beach had sand dunes at that time until the blizzard of 78 came and washed them all out. And, I partied in those dunes as a teenager.
We're proud of you for that.
Yeah, it was great. And and so I really do have fond memories, and I wish those memories on the people that are here and, have small children or the teenagers or whatever. I wish they had those too, but it's not the reality. And what I would say at town, a couple of things at town meeting is, one is that we have got to pay this lease. Because if we don't, then we don't have any access to the beach. We're done. Even those of us like me that would just as soon walk on, no. That would like to walk across the bridge and take a walk on the beach, no. All of that is done if we don't pay this lease. So that would be my, caveat. But also to bring up the importance of, and it's been said over and over, how important that beach is as a barrier beach. How much it's protecting what other thing that people love about this town is the bay. The bay is crucial to our town. And if we didn't have that barrier beach, we wouldn't have the bay either. And let alone all the houses on Washington Street. I think it's a hard issue. I really do. And I'm hopeful that some sort of considerations can be made to ease it up, to give people more access to the drive on. But I don't think that's the most important thing about the beach. And one of the things I do get irritated when people say, well, I couldn't use the beach all summer. I used the beach all summer last year. You know, I just pulled my car up and got my little wagon out and filled it up and off we went, you know, with my 3 grandchildren, you know, I mean, it's not like, you know, it was impossible and we all had a great time. So I don't know. Yeah.
Fernando?
Yeah, so I think we were fortunate before that basically we were able to, we have a, let me see, excess revenue, shall we say, coming off the beach sales, right? The sticker sales. But we kind of look at it now, we're going to spend $1 million, right, on the beach we're essentially renting it, right? It's owned by the Duxbury Reservation, so the town through that lease is a tenant, right? And I think one of the things that comes up was, what are you spending that $1 million on, right? So when you look at, I've asked that question. I remember on the finance committee, I asked that question, and I got slapped in the face. In essence,
I never hit you.
It wasn't you. It wasn't you. But in essence, it's a nonprofit, right? They're spending their money on their mission, right? And their mission is threefold. Is obviously it's protecting the land form. It's basically protecting the environment and then providing access to the beach. That's their mission. So you step back without looking at the data, without having the information there. You look at it, $1 million, right? So what are they spending money on? They have staff, big staff, so that some money goes towards the director and maybe some admin, some finance people. And then in the summertime, they've got to hire staff to the bird monitors. They have to hire those. And the rest of the money, I presume, it goes into conservation of the landmass, I think there. So I think at the end of the day, we've got to look at this money that we spend is actually, it's about protecting Duxbury as we know it. When you look at the pictures right now, I can't imagine what it must have been like with sand dunes, but when you actually an aerial photograph, that beach is really narrow. Really, really narrow, right?
Scary.
It's scary, right? So you know, basically, if we lose that barrier, then just like you said, Duxbury Bay is totally different. You know, we have basically becomes open sea. All right. So what do we spend $1 million on? We spend $1 million for the Duxbury Beach Reservation to complete their mission, preserve the landmass, environmental protection there, and access to the beach. Yes, we don't get the access to the beach that people would like. The ORV, the oversand, and it's important. I think Mike has actually been leading the charge for us on behalf of the rest of the select board in engaging with conversations with the Duxbury Beach Reservation, with the state regulators. So I think there's progress being made. I do get frustrated, though. A lot of the costs that we incur in terms of providing and helping beach preservation is actually caused when the beach is closed to ORV. We have a road. We have a road where people go backwards and forwards from Gurnet. I'm just saying it. And most of the trouble we had last year, and we had to pay $12,000 for extra policemen to go ahead and monitor speed on that road, right? Because when the plovers are crossing, they can migrate either side for foraging. And so that road, they've got to go at 5 miles an hour, and people don't like going at 5 miles an hour.
True.
And so therefore they speed, and therefore we are not following the Habitat Conservation Plan, and therefore we need additional police force, which costs another $12,000 over and a budget that we pay. So yeah, it's not easy. A lot of people are involved, and but ultimately, I think that $1 million that we spend a year, we capped it. Remember, we used to go up 50,000, and we said enough's enough. I think it's spent for now. Is spent well in terms of protecting Duxbury as we know it, and the environment, and obviously giving us some access, maybe not as much as people would like, but some access ORV. We can definitely walk. We can definitely walk. It's the ORV is the issue.
Enjoy that conversation. It will be lovely.
Thank you.
No
Yeah, we
worries.
could talk about that for,
Another hour, right?
I'd rather not. So, we've touched on PFAS. This is, and I won't say it's new. I think it's because I'm sure the conversation has been had over time and the issue has been raised. but it's new in that it has come to the forefront. And, with some very scary numbers attached.
Correct.
To solve, the numbers of 75 to 100 million with no definitive route of solution and now. So we have a couple of articles coming, and I know that you have been engaged in a lot of research on this. Tell me, what you feel the next steps, not the future, because none of us can predict the future, but our next steps will be for that, and how you feel that the town is best able to respond without going broke.
Right. So, I mean, the problem we're trying to solve is that there's PFAS in the drinking water. And in 2022, actually, the EPA came out with a health advisory, which essentially said that you don't want PFAS in drinking water. Right. And I had a great conversation with Mass DEP this afternoon.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. And they're basically in the same place. It is a hazardous chemical. And so the state and the federal organizations are basically saying that it shouldn't be in our drinking water. So we have to do something about it. When you look at our well stock right now, they're all producing PFAS. There's only one well which is above the current regulations. If this 4 parts per trillion comes to pass, and the census conversations I've had with Mass DEP and with EPA, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen sometime this year. Basically, half our well stock will be in exceedance of the maximum allowable level of PFAS. And it's not going to happen just here in the Commonwealth. It's going to happen right across the US. And so everybody is going to be out there trying to buy that vessel, that carbon projects is going to be a big challenge. So I think we need to move quickly. I think both those articles 14, Article 15, are about getting us in place so we can get ahead of the game and start moving to address the issue with PFAS. So bottom line is a hazardous chemical, is in a drinking water. And based on all the information that I have that's been provided to me and to the board, EPA made it quite clear, Mass DEP make it quite clear, we need to get it out of drinking water. We have no choice.
Yeah, well, I
Oh, by
certainly,
the way, sorry, let me just a final comment about funding.
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah, sorry, the last piece. Yeah. So when I asked that question, everybody's going to be after it, right? There's got to be money out there, and yes, there is funds available at the federal level. There will be funds available at the state level. It's a question of going out and asking for it. One thing they did say to me, which is quite cool, is the consultants that we work with, and Ryan Trahan with Environmental Partners is one of them. They understand the whole process, and they're the best. Actually, DP recommends that get hold of your consultants because they know how to get the money, right? So it's recognized, I think, federally and at the state level, this is going to cost a lot of money, and money needs to be available, whether it's worst case it's 0% interest loans, or it's forgiveness on your principal. There's going to be money out there. We'll just need to get hold of it along with everybody else.
Yeah. Cindy?
yeah, so I mean, agree obviously with everything that Fernando said, but, I do want to say that I'm really proud of Duxbury and what we've done, in that we are, in fact, I think, out in front of the game. We've been very, very proactive about this. And we have, as Fernando said, only one well. It's 20 parts per trillion, yeah. Now is the level, and we have only one well above that.
And that's put in. Sorry, I had to say that.
What'd you say?
It's not producing, right?
So right, it's been shut.
Put in, yeah.
You said shut in, and I thought, what does that mean? So, anyhow,
Shut down.
shut down.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, but we have a number of wells that if it goes down to 4, it will no longer be in compliance, according to the data that we've had over the last couple of years. There's a town in Massachusetts, not far from here, that all of their wells are above 20. And they have had to shut them all down, and the town is on bottled water here, 30 miles from here. And that's alarming to me, because if we have one shut down, then the ones that are over 4 now, if those all have to be shut down, I don't know that we would have enough water, enough wells to provide enough water. I don't know that one way or the other. I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm just saying that I'm proud of the fact that we are ahead of the game. We have an article to provide money to look at all of the wells and determine what their needs are, what's more important, so that we have a plan to say, let's do this well, then this well, then this well. And Article, is it 14 and 15?
14 and 15, yeah.
15 is the one. yeah.
Says, all right, if we decide that we want to do X well first, if that's the most important, then we can start with some money to do some initial planning on that
Mhm.
particular well. It's not construction, it's not anything else, it's getting a plan together so that when construction is going to be needed, we can say to, this funding sources, we're ready to go. We know what well, we have a plan. We'd like some money, we want to get going.
There you go.
And, so, yeah.
That will be a lively discussion.
It will
But-
continue to be.
Yeah, yes, it always will be. So another lively discussion, and this is one,
There's just so many.
there are so many, and we actually do live in Brigadoon. So it's
I know.
unbelievable that that
Oh.
we have this angst, but we do. And for good reason. I mean, there's some serious problems, but
Sure.
we shouldn't lose sight of how blessed we are with the environment and where we live and what we get to enjoy every day. But that being said, this has been a conversation that I've been engaged in since I moved here, oddly enough. I know that happy day for the town, and is housing.
Right.
And we are very torn as a community. We are extremely dedicated to the environment. We are extremely dedicated to maintaining open space. The pastoral is that, has always been in the promos. And that's a good thing. And as a result, we have not been as hospitable as one might want to provide housing of different levels and different abilities to incorporate them into the community. We have very, very few affordable units. The average price, and you might correct me, but I believe it's $750 or $780 or something of housing in town. And young couples starting off or older couples that are living on a fixed income, these are not affordable prices. So the conversation has always been, and we've always been of two minds. Yes, we think it's important, but we don't want to develop this open space that we treasure. So with that lead up, I'll leave that to one of you to raise your hands. Where do you feel we need to go with housing? Because it also, housing and providing this type of housing goes with the diversity and being a welcoming community. We're not only welcoming people that can, qualify for $1 million mortgage. Thank you very much. We want to welcome all different people.
Yeah.
And we are richer for it. So how do you propose that we can attempt
I can
to
start this one out.
do this without having a density issue or hurting the environment?
Yeah.
It's tricky.
It is tricky, and I raised my kids here, they all graduated from Duxbury High School. Not one of them could afford to move back to Duxbury now. And maybe I didn't raise them well enough to get really high-paying jobs, but
I think you probably did a very
But-
nice job.
but so it is very expensive, and I know the select boards, we've been working for years now on one particular parcel, trying to
That's right.
get some affordable housing in there. And if it ever happens, there'll be a discussion about, you know, how much, you know, and I think that putting in a fair amount of housing, apartment housing or whatever, affordable, I'd like to be able to see the people that work for us in this town, all be able to live in this town if they chose to. And, I don't have as much of a problem with the density issue in particular parcels. I would rather that than to have, you know, take up more open space. Because I think that's also a really important thing. We did, when Chris Ryan was here, do that MBTA Communities Act
Well,
thing.
that was my follow-up, but yeah,
Oh,
no,
so
go
sorry.
for it. Yeah, no, that's perfect.
We did do that.
A la Milton.
A la Milton, which really,
Yeah.
you know, they have had, you know, grant money taken away from them, you know, and which we knew would happen. I mean, that was part of the deal.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, if
we
you
could
don't
have,
do
we could have a
this-
blast discussing the state, you
Yeah.
know, controlling home rule, but
Yeah.
we
Yes.
divert, yeah,
Yeah.
another day.
But we did it. Well, I should say Chris did it. And, you know, we gave it, you know, a check mark.
Yeah.
And personally, I think that, as we all know, there's a huge housing crisis in this state.
There is.
And I don't see why Duxbury should be immune from doing their part to help it out.
Okay, and Fernando?
Yeah. So kind of there are a couple of different themes running here, but
Yeah, I know.
so no, but this is great. So one thing is
It's
No,
well, isn't it?
it's well.
Yeah, go ahead.
no, but it's this density thing, right? And so one of the things I've heard, so I'm actually on the
Yes.
Duxbury Affordable Housing Trust, right? So it's an honor to be part of that of that trust. So we've been talking about this a lot, right? There's a group of people that keep on saying we've got to reach the 10% to take control, so we don't have 40Bs, and I think we finally got around to it. That's not the reason why we want affordable housing in Duxbury. Is to meet the 10% target, so we don't have 40Bs. That's not the reason. That's not the reason. But a lot of people still talk about it.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about it, right? And it creates negative
Angst.
right? And it drives maybe the wrong behaviors, and not the wrong behaviors, but people don't want it, right? Because of the density, and it's not the right reason to build affordable housing. You put together a plan to build affordable housing to meet the needs of Duxbury. And I think that's where the Affordable Housing Trust is right now. They have made progress, and we're getting together to kind of build not a housing plan, but a strategy, a game plan to meet the needs of Duxbury. We had a great seminar that was hosted by the Council on Aging about creating affordable housing to meet the needs of seniors, right? And so I think we just, as Affordable Housing Trust, we need some time to establish what is the housing requirements, the needs for Duxbury, and put together a plan to meet that. That is kind of fits in with the character of Duxbury. I just wanted, as much as possible, to remove some of the barriers towards building affordable housing that is out there, and make the Affordable Housing Trust part of the community, part of all the committees, right? So when they come and present the cases, they have the support, and when they come to Selectboard, they have the support, right? I think that's important. So moving away from the 10% is key, and then coming up with a plan that meets the needs for the town of Duxbury is.
And I would add, not the education.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between affordable, subsidized. There's many different. Affordable now for a small family is about $100 grand in income. So I don't think people truly understand that.
Right. Exactly.
So, but not to put my 2 cents in there, but that is a key component, is the education
Right,
on
I'll add that.
what it means.
Yeah, no, in all seriousness, exactly right. I think people have misconceptions, and that's part of the strategy we
Yep.
put together is to remove those and make the Affordable Housing Trust more welcome, should we say,
Right.
when they
And,
put the
and
plans together.
several times,
Yeah.
we've kind of mentioned the fact that the planner left and
That's a big gap.
and there was, we had a large shift. We have many new department heads. We've had many leave. Part of it is because I think we had enjoyed their services for a period of time. They were ready to retire. But I think coming from the finance and the numbers piece of it, they were stolen from us with money. So, I mean, everybody has to take care of their family, and if they're offered a wonderful
Mhm.
opportunity to make that, then, more power to them.
Yeah.
But, we've had a lot of turnover. What do you feel as selectman is the driver, for that turnover? I've just told you what I think again. Oh, my God, I'm sorry, Martha. And what do we need to do as a town?
Yeah.
To turn that around and make us a better employer and
Right.
someone that's a more attractive
Yeah,
employer?
so I think, I was on the finance committee, Betsy,
yes,
when
pals.
we were pals, and actually we supported the compensation and classification study. That was big. All right, so it cost, but the end outcome is actually, I think at the end of the day, we've got to a point where we are starting to be able to pay and compensate people competitively. I think that was part of the reasons why people left us or wouldn't come to join us, because we weren't competitive. And I think that compensation classification has got us there. I think, and I digress a bit, but when we come and talk about and consider an override, I think one thing that we must stand, I'll put my 2 cents in there as a select board, is that we need to pay a decent salary, decent benefits to attract quality people to deliver service. We can't get part of the override discussion, let's start cutting salaries, or basically we can't go there. It's about the services. We have to make choice about the services and not how we pay for the people to provide those services. So I think the compensation classification study is getting us there. I hear we're still not competitive for a planner role. Our current compensation is not competitive, and maybe that's why we're not attracting. I've also heard that part of the dearth is that there's not many people, actually, that there is more openings than there are resources available throughout the state to fill this role. So I don't think there's an easy answer to the problem. However, most importantly, we've got to pay people a decent wage, provide decent benefits, and an attractive place to come to work as a minimum.
I don't know that I have too much more to add to that. I mean, I agree that the compensation study was huge in getting us to attract people that are, competent and more than competent. I mean, we have had some recent people come in that are fantastic. I mean, they also replaced fantastic people, but yeah, it has to be, it has to be welcoming in so many ways, right? It has to be certainly, wage wise, it has to be a environment
Yes.
that people want to be in, people who are, friendly and respectful and, all of those things. And I think that for the most part, Duxbury is that, and the various different departments are that. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind and to keep going, again, and I definitely agree with Fernando, it seems like the planner position, we are not where we should be. And we are competing against, few people for a lot of slots, so.
Right, and when you finish the compensation
Mhm.
study and it's implemented at town meeting, and then it's implemented as a way of doing business,
Yeah.
it's about 2 years out of date.
I know, we've got to keep it going. We have to keep it.
So,
Yeah.
that's an interesting part of the
Right.
conversation as
And,
well.
and I've continued to have conversations with Jeannie. We've got to keep it up to date, because if not, then we'll get behind, and then we'll have another hiccup. I mean, we'll become reactive again. I think so.
Right.
Jeannie is stressing she needs to keep that
Yeah,
up to date.
it's difficult.
But it's difficult, but it's key for us to be able to attract people
Oh,
to.
yeah.
provide the services.
Right, I mean, it
Right.
should be a great place to work.
So this next question.
Yes.
You'll enjoy, as it was a personal challenge for me and continues to this day.
Okay.
As a member of the board,
Mhm.
do you feel it's your obligation to make decisions based on how you feel is the best course of action? Or, and there were many times that the community had another course that they were in favor of, or that they were espousing, that didn't necessarily align with, the view from Betsy land. So it's difficult. And
It is.
how do you feel that should be managed, and how do you manage it?
Mm.
So Cindy,
Yeah.
why don't you go
Yeah.
first?
I think it's a combination. I mean, I think that you always have to keep in mind, and maybe a top of mind, the citizenry and what their needs are and what their, desires or wants are. But I would have a hard time making any decision that went against my values or better judgment.
Okay,
Um,
see.
so,
What?
yeah, right?
No, see, you see, it wasn't just me.
Oh, no.
And and really in most situations, there's gonna be, not, the whole town's not gonna agree on anything,
No,
right?
never.
And so, that would be silly.
It would be nice for a minute. Really nice for a
Yeah.
minute.
But, yeah, so I think that's it. I think I'll be
Yeah.
short and sweet on that.
No, I think that's a great answer.
I think that I have to repeat it, right? You do have to listen. I mean, that's why
Yeah.
we're on the board, is to represent
Yeah.
the town, right? But always, that's why I'm here. It's a tough decision, but I think I hope to bring my judgment, my experience to these decisions. We talked about, I don't know if we talked about it, but something is, sometimes we only hear the loud voices.
Yeah.
Right, and I
Yeah.
think we've got to find a way to hear more, should we say, the other voices in there. So I don't know, we maybe when
The
we talk
silent
the
voices.
silent voices, nicely
Yeah.
said. So that's maybe when we meet after the town meeting, we can, there's something about having maybe for want of a better word, a town hall as a select board. I mean,
Yeah.
so just throwing that out there, once a quarter, open forum, and try and listen to as many people as we can. So there's something about, don't know how yet, but yeah, we do, sometimes we do get lots of loud voices in there, but how do we engage with those that
It is, it's difficult.
yeah.
It's very, very difficult. And you can get caught flat-footed, because then all of a sudden the silent are no longer silent.
That's right.
And it's difficult to
Yep.
know
Yeah.
that you never heard that
Right.
point.
But they're angry that they weren't heard.
Right, well, and I think Casey had said during the library trustees, you've got to look at a problem from, 360.
Yep.
And be willing to admit you're wrong.
No, that's right,
And,
yeah.
and to hear what you have to be humble, I think,
Mhm.
when you're on the select board, because, and I'm not saying that this board is not, because
Right.
it is, but it's very difficult to hear all the various opinions and maintaining that openness to feel as though, okay, well, maybe I'm crazy on
That's
it.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's tough.
Mm.
All right, so now we're at the end of the party here.
Oh.
And I think we've covered your priorities. I think that
We have,
the
yeah.
good news for the community is that you're in cahoots. You are seeing the same issues. I think it's very divisive on a board when one or two members are dedicated to a certain cause and don't get a broader scope. I think that you two are very strong, and that you see the different issues that are there, and you're willing to engage, even if it's not nearest and dearest to your heart. And we should be very grateful to you for that, giving us that gift. And,
Thank
and I wish you the best, and we'll see you this weekend.
All right. I look
And-
forward to it.
yes,
Yeah, we
lots of
always.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you this weekend, and we hope that, a lot of people
Yeah.
turn out and we get some good work
Yeah,
done.
I just have one thing I
Yeah.
wanted to say,
Yeah.
is just to follow up on what you were saying, is that you sometimes read in the paper about these select boards
Mm.
that just are like at each other's throats, you know, on issues and whatever. And I think, you know, I'm blessed
Mm.
to be able to work with these four people. And we don't always agree,
Nope.
but we're very respectful.
Right.
And if, you know, there's somebody that's, you know, an outlier on something, then, okay, they don't get their way and that's the end of it. But, you know, you do sometimes, you know, you read about some of these towns, about boards, I think, what is that?
You cannot pay for that kind of entertainment,
No.
really.
So I just feel blessed to be, I think it's a great board, you know, and,
Well, and it is very hard work and it is some days thankless, many days thankless. And it is obviously it's a passion for public service
Right.
that brings you to it. And,
Yeah.
and, I personally thank you for it because I know what it does and what your challenges are. And, you know what? It's worth every minute, but it's hard.
That's right. Yeah.
So thank you for doing it again, and we will enjoy this weekend, which is my favorite day of the year.
That's right.
Just
And I
Saturday,
also
right?
say
I think
thank all
so.
of you for.
So,
to the
All right,
town.
well, thank you very much. Thank you for.
Oh, yeah, thank you to the library, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just final reflection is being on the select board, you get to meet many different members of the
Yes, you
community.
do.
And
Yes.
what I really like is the involvement,
Yeah,
right? This is really all these committees, right? They involve their time and effort. Martha, you know, basically every year we got to do a candidate forum. Thank you very much. I had a great conversation. I was invited by Denise and the trustees for a conversation last week. And it's just wonderful to just be involved in a community that's really active.
Oh, the friends
And-
that you
and
make,
committee.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you never would have run a course at your
Yep.
day-to-day events. It's just that's the
that's
best
the
part.
best part of it,
Best
yeah.
part.
Yeah.
But I do have one final question.
Uh-oh.
Why is always in the town meeting,
Always likes the
When-
last
when-
word, by
when-
the way.
when you vote, right? When you vote, there's always 14 people that say no.
Oh, always.
Why is that? You know,
Absolutely.
Fourth of July appropriation, there's
Yeah.
always 14 people that say no.
Welcome to America.
Always, always, always.
Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody.
you, thank you, Betsy. No
Thank you,
worries.
Betsy.
Okay. Fine. We'll see.
They were very.